I am in the city of brotherly love, Philadelphia, similar to the city of Lubavitch, which is called the village of love. And that has a common bond together. For both Philadelphia and Lubavitch are associated with movements that created brotherhood and unity throughout the world in different ways. Interestingly, that brotherhood that was established by the people in Philadelphia on July the 4th, 1776, 232 years ago, had to have associated with it an act of violence, an act of rebellion that cost many lives and put the lives of the signatories in danger, for they were immediately hunted by the crown, by the greatest power on earth at that time, which was England. Similarly, today we read the covenant that God gave Pinchas, a covenant of peace. Hineni nosin lo as brisi shalom, I'm giving him a covenant of peace. How was that peace acquired? It was acquired through an act of violence. How did the peace that this country enjoys and the prosperity it enjoys, how was that accomplished? It was accomplished through violence. But it was not a violent act. It was an act of violence in order to ensure a just society. It was an act of violence against tyranny, an act of violence against destructive elements. And the same thing is true with Pinchas. He was a man of peace who acted violently against the destructive elements that were threatening to destroy the Jewish people. Sometimes you find among Jews people who do things that seem to be rash and violent. And we say we abhor violence, and yet sometimes this violence is necessary because it's violence against a tyrant. And violence against a tyrant to destroy tyranny is an absolute must. The problem that many people, including liberal thinking Jews, have is because they think that all things are negotiable. Tyranny is not a negotiable item. We cannot stand tyranny. We cannot bear evil in our midst. Evil must be eradicated, but evil has a definition. Definition of evil is destruction for selfish purposes. People who accuse others of violence against the masses usually do so in a self-serving way. The communists accused the West of tyranny. The Nazis accused the Jews of tyranny, of being gangsters. And of course we know that that was a lie. And so you can't say tyranny is in the eyes of the beholder. Everybody uses words to back themselves up. But the truth has to be clear and identifiable. It was clear and identifiable that the Crown of England was acting capriciously and in unjust fashion against the settlers in the New World. It was clear that in order to remove themselves from this tyrannical hand, they had to rebel. Just as it was clear to Pinchas that in order to save the rest of the people, he had to act, and act immediately, and act strongly, and unfortunately, he had to act violently. But he had to do so. But it was not the intent to be violent and to create a violent society. The intent is a just society. And this is the message I wish to give you, to carry with you from this day forward, from this covenant of our grandson. The purpose of defense and the purpose of arms is to create a just society. If you see people acting violently for the purpose of violence, for the purpose of dominating others so that they may dominate others, then this is an act of tyranny, an act of viciousness. Those who rise up against tyranny, that is not an act of violence. It really is an act of shalom. I've had discussions on the internet with people who promote another religion. They call themselves the religion of peace. But 23 out of the 24 conflicts that exist at this moment all over the world are all associated with members of these groups of people. Now you have to ask yourself, if this is the religion of peace, how come it's involved in so many wars? And the answer is, it's not a religion of peace. It is a euphemism. A euphemism means that it does not really represent what it says it represents. It's a good line to feed someone when people need to be placated. But it's not the religion of peace. The result of Islam is that they will kill out all the Jews. And then they'll go after the Christians. And if they don't accept their ways, they will kill all of them. And I ask you clearly, and I ask my Islamic friends clearly, is this peace? In order to convince someone of truth, you must convince them of the truth. And if they are unconvinced, that means you haven't done a good job. And you're really may not be telling the truth. And the only way you can convince someone is by the point of a gun. That's not truth. And it's not salem. It is violence. Because you hate other people who are different from you. The Torah allows for people who don't believe in the Torah to continue their beliefs so long as they believe in the 7 Noahide commandments. And the Torah says that he who fulfills the 7 Noahide commandments has a portion in the world to come. There is no everlasting purgatory for Gentiles who are not Jewish. However, both in Christianity and Islam, those who reject their tenets are damned eternally to an everlasting hell. You have to ask yourself, why? Why? Why do you have to condemn people who you can't convince of your ways? After all, your ways are not logical, they're beliefs. Beliefs are things that are complex and require either evidence or feelings, being convinced, study. I've studied a little bit about other religions, enough to know I don't believe in them. I believe in my religion. I don't say that you have to believe in mine, because I don't know if I can convince you. And you know what? I don't have to convince you. Either my ways are correct and you'll see them from my actions, or they're not correct. My actions will not be favorable in your eyes. And that should be the criteria that all people are judged by what they do, whether they are kind and compassionate, whether they give to charities, whether they help the poor, whether they teach the ignorant, whether they inspire those who need inspiration and give comfort to those who need to be comforted. Such is the way of peace. Such is the way of salem or shalom. And I wish all of you the merit of the covenant, the bris of my grandson, Hineni nosin lo is brisi shalom, that God gives him a covenant of peace. May that peace extend to us and to all of you.